went through being in prison there for a week.
They will throw anyone in jail for nothing.
Did you find the answers to your problems within your mind?
You do. You just start to get in this like dark hole.
He fell over and then the car ran him over and killed him, right?
I'm just distracted. I'm not actually dealing with anything.
I saw an interview with you and you mentioned in 2019 that you were going through a serious depression. You said you didn't care if you live or die anymore. What was going on exactly? I had no idea about this. I saw it recently, and you didn't explain exactly what you were going through. But what happened, man?
Yeah, I tried to kill myself.
You did?
Yeah, and
Jeez, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
I hate talking about the reason because it's not because of my ex-wife or any kind of relationship like that. It's just, and now I understand depression. I even had a friend who killed himself a long time ago, and I was very upset with him after he did it because I just didn't understand suicide. I don't understand how you can be so selfish because no matter what, you have so many people who care about you and you're hurting them. But there is a point of depression where you don't control your brain. You cannot turn it off. And the ability of not being in control, it just eats you away. And that was my problem is that yes, this whole divorce and infidelity and affairs and stuff, of course, that's going to make anyone upset. And I was hurt by it. But after it's already passed, I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about other things that are just popping in my head. I can't focus on anything else. I can't focus on business. I can't focus on training. And you just start to get in this like dark hole and you can't get out of it. And yeah, it was just rough. And it was just one of those things where I don't know why I got out of it. I'm glad I did, obviously. Like my life is the best it's ever been, and I wouldn't be here if I did do something or I followed through with it. So it's just one of those things that, yeah, it wasn't bodybuilding. It's not like pressure. I wish it was because that would be simple. Oh, it was just the pressures of competing and living day to day, and I just couldn't take it, and that was it. It was just literally where I just couldn't control my own brain.
So it was pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah, because it was when I was getting ready for the Chicago Pro.
And what happened? How did you make a conscious decision to hurt yourself? Like what happened exactly? I want people to learn from this,
Yeah, I tried to take pills. I did, and then just had someone help me throw them up. A friend of mine. Yeah, I was getting ready for the show, and I'm just like, okay, sometimes being so distracted with something that can actually be something healthy. But really, in underlining, it's actually very unhealthy because I'm just distracted. I'm not actually dealing with anything. I'm just pushing it under the rug. And I think when I'm like, because once I found out about my wife, and then it's so crazy to still talk about it. My wife had an affair, and that guy left his pregnant wife for my wife, and they ran off together. And that pregnant wife is the one who called me to tell me. So while I'm getting ready for Chicago in 2018, we became really close where I'm like boo-hoo, I'm all sad and exactly going through depression. And now here's another person on the other side of the world who's going through the exact same thing. She's the other half, but now she's also has a child inside of her. That now not only does she have to do this pregnancy by herself, she's going to have to birth this baby and raise it by herself. And it made me man up hard because what am I complaining about? And having someone like her where we would talk daily, sometimes all day. And it really helped me a lot. She didn't know anything about bodybuilding. And she really just made me like suck it up. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do Chicago and I'm going to kill it. And then I got second and I didn't win. And then it was just like, oh my God. Like, because also it was my first loss. I never lost a show. And after that Chicago show, I'm like, I'm done. I told Aceto, done for the year. Because I barely made it to that show. And then it's so crazy. I actually went skydiving, really random, because I weighed so little. I was able to jump out of a plane. So I jumped out of the plane. And by the time I landed, it was like something happened to me. And I was just like, holy shit, like, Like I don't know, I just felt like my life was like, there's so much more to live, you know? And I had talked to her and she kind of like knew a little bit. She was trying to learn about bodybuilding. And this was back when you could qualify on points. It was the last year, I think, that they did that. So if I went to Tampa, which was like a week later, and as long as I got in the top two, I could qualify for the Olympics. And she's just like, you know what? Like, how cool will it be that they destroy our lives? And then I have, because then right after Chicago, she had the baby. And then she's like, how crazy it would be that I have this wonderful life. You go to the Olympia for the first time. Because when I won New York, I passed up the Olympia.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So this will be the first time I'd ever go to the Olympia. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. And I did. I went to Tampa. It was a very close show. It was very hard. And I got second and I got to go to the Olympia. But I realized when I was at the Olympia, I'm like, how am I not happy? How am I not enjoying this? How am I like no matter what, I'm like, even if you don't care about me, this is really cool for the sport. You have someone who won the sport, won the Olympia, and now their child is now on the Olympia stage. It's never happened before. I should at least be enjoying that I'm just this anomaly. And I was just so miserable. I was so unhappy. I couldn't eat or aceto the whole time, trying to figure out food for me to be able to eat because I had no appetite. I was just so sick. And then after that, I took some time off and got my mental health better. But it really took me a while, 2018, 19, 20. It wasn't until right before Sean died that I actually got my shit together and I was feeling good about myself. So yeah, it's just one of those things. But when I posted about it, I learned there's a lot of guys going through the same thing. And it's a very weird thing. I think in general, just in the world, men have to be strong, can't talk about
Yeah.
being weak or sad or things like that. But especially in the bodybuilding world, it's even harder. You have to be this suck it up, you know. And once I post about it, I got more messages about that situation than I did anything I've ever got. So that helped me also. I mean, anytime you know other people are going through something you're going through, it always makes it easier.
So your escape from the depression, did it come from within? Did you find the answers to your problems within your mind, or was it external problem that you were battling with?
Um, I think it was a combination of people around me definitely helped, making me realize even if I can't control my brain about one thing, I can direct it towards the other half of my life, which is great. Like I don't have a boss. I don't wake up to even an alarm clock. Like I have a great life, and one thing shouldn't be able to make me this upset. So instead of like saying I'm not dealing with something or I'm just distracting myself, I just kind of like let it hurt, and then also focus on the other good things that were in my life. And also training helps. You know, you can use it. And that's something else that I really did. First, so I'm like something bad happens to me, I lose my appetite. Don't want to train. Like if I was one of those guys that wants to eat when they're depressed, I would be Mr. Olympia already. But I'm the opposite. My body wants to go back to being skinny. So even when I was training for that Chicago Pro, I was just getting through the workouts. I wasn't able to use that anger, or pain to push harder. And then I was able to actually use it in the gym in a productive way. And then obviously, as your life gets better, you feel better. Sometimes you just have to just stick around and things will work itself out. And I wish that I had like this is exactly what I did and this worked it out, but it didn't. It took like 3 years.
I want to talk to you about your Dubai experience. You recently called Dubai a shithole in one of the interviews because you went through being in prison there for a week for being involved in a car accident. But why did you go to Dubai in the first place? Who convinced you to go there to actually? Because you moved there, right? You actually lived there.
Yeah, I was there for like 2 years.
Why 2 years is a long time. I mean, why did you do that?
Actually, I actually went there on accident. I was going to India. And then my friend, her visa wasn't cleared. So we had to stop in Dubai for like 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time that I was there. And this is something that I always talk about to a lot of, like the majority of Americans don't even have a passport. Majority of Americans have never traveled. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that every American should do. I think it helps you deal with things in this country a lot better. But also it realizes how ignorant we are. Even a bodybuilder, even with oxygen and all that, I think Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Dubai, I think they're all the same. I did before I went there. And I think when I went there on accident and I was like, holy, this place is amazing. It's very cool looking. I think that opened me up to, what, because I was supposed to go to Kuwait for the New York Pro with Cormier, and I didn't go. And really thinking about Kuwait, like Kuwait would have been really tough because it's just literally you're at the gym, you can't go anywhere else. So when I got to Dubai, I was like, man, if I could get this like oxygen bodybuilding camp stuff out here going, where it's actually a beautiful place to live, I could do this. And also, I'm just coming off the loss, losing to a guy that weighs 100 pounds less than me. I had just lost Legion to Burrito. So that was a tough loss for me because even though I had a torn meniscus that I didn't even know, on my leg, I could barely train my legs. I'm still dealing with things going to the show that I could have looked better, but still, no matter what, I lost. So I thought that I needed like a get away from everyone I know, throw myself into a eat, sleep, train situation, and I know that I'll throw. And that was the worst part about it. And only people who will know are the people who were there. That I killed it. I looked like a walking Mr. Olympia. I was so proud of myself. I was so happy with the progress I made, the biggest I've ever been. And then it happens. Unfortunately, situations happen. So the way I can describe, because when I call Dubai cold, it just depends on who you are. Because you go there and you're rich, and you're just visiting, it's not a if you don't have money, it's absolutely cool. The way that they treat poor people, the way that they cover up things, the way they hide things, it's literally against the law to report anything that makes Dubai look bad. So when you say things like this is the safest place and this is the this and that, you only have these claims because you literally throw people in jail if they report the opposite. And when you live there, you start to realize that, and this is the best example I can give you, is that when we go to Disney World, we love it. Take your family, it's amazing. But if you work there and you saw what's going on behind the scenes, it just kills that mystique to it. And that's just what happens in Dubai. When you go into the jail and you're sitting with, there's 96 people in the jail. And I would say 90 of them didn't do anything. It's all just small little things because they will throw anyone in jail for nothing. Even this situation, I didn't even run this guy over. Someone else ran him over.
He bumped into you on a bike, right? And then he fell over and then the car ran him over and killed him, right? Is that what happened?
Yeah. But he didn't die until days later. And that's another thing too. That's what really killed it the most for me is watching this guy in the road, moving, and the ambulance comes. And I learned later the ambulance that they sent is the ambulance that they send for these actual bikers, these poor Pakistan Indian people. True. Not because this guy had money or anything like that. So they bring the ambulance. These guys were joking and laughing, talking to each other. I'm looking at my friend because it's such like a horrible scene that had happened. And I couldn't get over how nonchalant these guys were. Taking their time. They're like, don't worry, his leg's just broken. They're cutting his pants, put a brace over his leg. He stays on the road for another maybe 45 minutes. They put him in the ambulance. The ambulance stays there for another 45 minutes. And then finding out almost 3 days later, he died from internal bleeding. No, Dubai killed this guy because I'm sure when he got to the hospital, whatever it was going to take to fix him, they didn't want to use because he was on the poor status. And they do. They have slaves out there. That's why they can build these buildings so fast because there's no overtime. There's no workman's comp. You get injured, that's it. Doesn't matter.
There's a lot of programs about Dubai on YouTube, like the underbelly of Dubai, right? It's like what happens outside of the glory of the skyscrapers. I get it for sure, but the point is, you spent a week in prison, right? And then you had to pay $10,000 to somebody. Then they let you out, that you couldn't leave, and then you finally were able to leave, right? That's kind of like how the story goes.
Well, I paid money to get out.
10,000, right?
No, I paid money to even get out of Dubai.
Oh wow! So on top of the 10,000, you had to pay more money.
Yeah, another 50,000.
Wow.
But that thing, I do agree with. I do like that they have that. It's a blood money that they have that they send to families of people who clearly have gone to Dubai to work to send money back to their family.
I see.
But what happened is I learned, it's probably like 10 years ago now, it's been a while. People were killing themselves on purpose because $50,000, it's like 250,000 or 150,000, I forget what it is, but it's a lot of money. Some of these guys are not even going to make that money ever. And they were literally just walking out into traffic.
That's so sad, man, to hear that, right? It's just sad.
But that's what I'm saying. It makes you realize, like, when you're around people like that, and then you come back to the United States and you're complaining about like little ass, it just goes away. Because I couldn't even imagine wanting to work for $1 an hour. I couldn't even imagine realizing if I do the math, I work for the next 30 years, I'm still not going to make this amount of money. I'd rather just kill myself and I know my family in India or Pakistan is taken care of.
Yeah.
But what happens with that money is your insurance pays. So, but now this is the part of bodybuilding. I could have just stayed there, maybe keep training, not worry about shows, and let the process fix itself out. My car insurance would pay that blood money to the family, and then there's nothing about it. That's not the life that I live in. I live in the life of bodybuilding where your sponsors will drop you. If you don't do shows, people forget about you. They start to write you off. And it was getting to the point where 3 of my sponsors were starting to say, like, hey, because it was cool that they were like, okay, you can go there for a year, take a year off of competing to build yourself up, because they can understand that that's an investment. But now that I have to stay another year, how many more years are we going to keep paying this guy and he's not doing shows? This is something now I know as an adult now. It makes sense. It's a business. I can't get mad at them. So I had to pay the money myself so I could go do a show and then do my traveling obligations. I did, because as soon as I came to do the Cal, I had to immediately go to Italy for Panada. And then I went to India, and then I went somewhere else in the United States too. So I had to like knock out all the sponsors really quick. But looking back, what I should have did is I should have even paid that money and left, and then came back here and just chilled for like a couple months and then got ready for a show. It's just that I was looking the best I ever had. And then I went into jail. And it's the most proud of myself. It's kind of very like stupid what I was doing, but I'm in the jail looking at the back of boxes, how many carbs, how many sugar, like I'm in a jail overseas. Like that's the last thing I should be thinking about. But I just thought, you know what, this is going to be a great story. I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to come out. I'm going to win this show. And I should have just been more realistic that bodybuilding is hard. It's very hard. And I'm not going to be able to just go have this happen to me and pretend that cortisol isn't going to, affect my body. And it does. So I don't regret paying the money to expedite that situation. I just regret literally getting on a plane and coming straight for that show. Because what I wanted to do was New York. I just missed it by a couple of days. And I was like, man, you know what? I left California to move to Dubai. Let's go back to the Cal Pro and do that show. That'll be a cool win. And yeah, it was probably the worst I ever looked.
Can you actually be a full-time bodybuilder and get ready for shows and win shows just on machines?
I want to focus on winning the Arnold. I'm going to win the Olympia.
Dorian Yates was training with you, right?
What's the hardest era? None of them are going to say now.
What is your game plan now?
I can't even do the poses, then what's the point?